So freedom is something that I've always talked about having from the beginning. Working as a mechanic in my dad's company, it was a 24/7, 48 working week a year operation. So you're always on call, daily, hourly, minute to minute, between always being at the mercy of the machines breaking to people not showing up and having to cover for them, satisfying brokers and customers. It was never ending. In addition, it was wanting the freedom from that beast. Needless to say, freedom was something I always dreamed about, but in all honesty, I never thought it would be a reality. So here I am, it's Tuesday about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm sitting on the back of my boat with exactly what I thought I would never have: freedom. My thoughts were clear and my guilt was gone, and of course, like anybody else, I worry, but the worry I have is what most normal people worry about. With this pandemic we got, it makes it much tougher, but still, the irrational thoughts of the what ifs regarding my physical or my mental well-being, they are totally gone. And that is the freedom that I always prayed for. And the journey, they say, should be enjoyed, but I wish I could say it was. Because when you're constantly fighting something that you have no idea what or why, how can you possibly enjoy it? And of course, there were so many times that I looked up to God and I thanked Him for all the gifts. My wife saying yes, and my beautiful kids being born, and so many, many other great times in my life. But the problem with suffering, it is constantly casting a shadow of this like bleakness. It's like, okay, I'll let you be happy for this moment, but don't ever for 1 minute think, I'm going to let you go. So Christmas morning, like watching my kids opening up presents, happy. And again, the happy times will never ever be forgotten. But the beast of the earbuds were constantly lurking. Anyway, I'm sitting here on the back of my boat, and I came in to tell you this story. And I'm ready to take a nice boat ride, and I see a boater start to enter the channel. Now, docking a boat, especially in front of people, it can be a very anxious moment. So he actually has a few people aboard, but as he gets closer, I can see the anxiety growing on his face. And he's fake smiling. And believe me, as a person who did that for a living and most of his life, yes, I can recognize it. So he stops his 42-foot flybridge, I think it's 42 feet, cruiser in front of his dock, and people across the pier, they're looking. They're looking at the Marina, but, they also can't help but watch this beautiful boat. So I smell the fumes of the diesel engines as he starts to maneuver the boat to pull into his slip. And believe it or not, as I mentioned, many boaters have a huge fear of this. And that's why some, and not all, but a lot of boats, they barely leave the dock. This poor guy. I just want to make sure. Okay. Anyway, so he looks over and he sees me typing on my iPad. And I guarantee you for that moment, he wishes he was me. For that moment, for that like 2.5 minutes of pure agony, of possibly embarrassing himself on what he might do, it kind of reminded me of decades of my life. What might I do? What might happen to me? How will this beast make me embarrass myself now? Anyway, he starts to go forward and the wind pulls him in front of a nearby boat. So he panics and he puts it in reverse and he almost hits the poor guy in a kayak going by, which of course, he had some great words of encouragement for this guy. So I hear the guy in the boat scream, "There's something wrong with the steering." And still, watching me, it reminds me of running out of meetings, pretending I forgot samples in my car just to somehow get up enough courage to re-enter the meeting I was supposed to be in. Anyway, it's blowing about 15 knots, which is pretty strong for a flybridge boat. It acts like a kite. Again, the worst part about panic or panic attacks are people noticing. Well, there was no helping noticing this poor guy. So this actually happened twice. He had to pull back twice. So he's looking at me and I motioned him to the fuel dock. So all he had to do was like side saddle it and we could assist him, grab the lines and tie him up. So again, he made an excuse that there was something wrong with the steering. Sound familiar? Excuses and lies. So he was visibly shaken up, not because of the possible damage he might do to the boat, but because people were looking and judging. So I knew him enough to wave to him in our cars when we drove by, going to our boats in the parking lot. It's really, honestly, the first time I've ever seen him leave the dock. And anyway, I know why. So I kind of whispered and asked to go out with him alone to get him off the fuel dock. He can't stay there. So his company grabbed some drinks and we went back around and I pretended to check out the wheel. So I stopped in front of his dock and I pulled in the port side and I guided the boat in and I kind of told him, I said, trust me, doubt has hurt more people than you know. So he hands me a macho Bud Light. So I went back to my boat and I started up my Jenny girl and I untied and I took off. So about 2 hours later, it's about 6 o'clock, and that's when most people are at the docks on the boat, like after work. So I turned without hesitation and I docked my beautiful boat effortlessly. Believe me, with all the what ifs and what I might do to embarrass myself, docking a boat is like me getting into bed. So I rinsed off the boat and I sat in the back and I opened up a cold beer and I just started to think how far I have come. I have freedom. I have freedom from irrational fear, from being a prisoner in the back of that plant with my 3/8 wrench. I am financially set, and all I have are everyday worries. Again, as I have been saying these words out loud, and I look up into the sky, and I just thank God for the freedom of all phases in my life. Thank you, and be well.